My name is Sarah Mitchell, I'm 32 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had the perfect marriage. My husband Marcus and I had been together for 8 years, married for 5. We lived in a beautiful townhouse in downtown Seattle, both had successful careers, and from the outside, we looked like the couple everyone envied. But perfect is just another word for blind. Asterisk if you're enjoying this story and want to see how far Sarah's revenge goes, help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers by clicking that subscribe button right now. Your support means everything to this channel. Asterisk. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon, typical Seattle weather, when my world started cracking. I was supposed to be at a conference in Portland until Thursday, but the keynote speaker got food poisoning, so they canceled the whole event. I texted Marcus to let him know I was coming home early, but my phone died right after I sent the message. I figured I'd surprise him with his favorite Thai takeout. The drive back from the airport took longer than expected. Rain hammered against my windshield, and I-5 was its usual nightmare of brake lights and frustrated commuters. By the time I pulled into our driveway at 6 p.m., I was exhausted, hungry, and looking forward to a quiet evening with my husband. I noticed an unfamiliar car parked across the street, a red Honda Civic with one of those tacky air fresheners hanging from the mirror. I didn't think much of it. Our neighborhood was always busy with visitors. The house was quiet when I walked in. Too quiet. Marcus's laptop was on the dining table, still open, and his jacket was thrown over the back of the couch, his usual habit that drove me crazy. Everything seemed normal, except for the faint sound of music coming from upstairs. Some R&B song I didn't recognize. Marcus. I called out, setting the takeout bags on the kitchen counter. Honey, I'm home early. No answer. I kicked off my heels and started up the stairs, my stockinged feet silent on the carpet. The music was coming from our bedroom, and I could hear other sounds now. Sounds that made my stomach drop. My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob. What I saw through that cracked open door changed everything. Marcus, my Marcus, was in our bed with a woman I'd never seen before. A blonde with tattoos running down her spine, her laughter mixing with his in a way that felt like knives in my chest. I stood there frozen, watching my marriage disintegrate in real time. They didn't notice me. They were too caught up in each other, too comfortable, too practiced. This wasn't a first time. This had the rhythm of routine. I backed away slowly, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. I made it down the stairs without making a sound, grabbed my purse, and walked out the front door like a ghost leaving its own life behind. Asterisk we're building something special here, and we're so close to 1,000 subscribers. If this story is resonating with you, click that subscribe button and join our community. Let's hit that goal together. Asterisk. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, just breathing, trying to process what I'd seen. The rain had stopped, leaving everything wet and glistening under the streetlights. That red Honda Civic was still parked across the street, mocking me with its presence. When I finally trusted myself to drive, I went to the only place that made sense. My best friend Jennifer's apartment in Capitol Hill. She took one look at my face and pulled me inside without a word. He's cheating, I said, and then I started crying. Not the pretty, delicate tears from movies, but the ugly, soul-destroying kind that leave your face blotchy and your chest aching. Jennifer held me while I fell apart on her couch, and when I finally got the whole story out, her face went through several shades of anger before settling on cold fury. "What are you going to do?" she asked. I wiped my eyes with the tissues she'd given me. "I don't know. Confront him. Divorce him. Key his car. All valid options," she said. "But Sarah, you need evidence. You need proof. Because guys like Marcus, they lie. They gaslight. They make you think you're crazy." She was right. I knew she was right. But the thought of going back to that house, of facing him, made me feel sick. "Stay here tonight," Jennifer said. "Tomorrow we make a plan." I didn't sleep. I lay on Jennifer's guest bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the last few months in my head. How many times had he been late? How many business dinners had he claimed? How many times had he accused me of being paranoid when I asked innocent questions about his day? The answer made me feel stupid and naive. My phone buzzed around midnight. Marcus. A dozen texts asking where I was, claiming he'd gotten my message about coming home early but I never showed up. Lies. All lies. My message hadn't even delivered because my phone had died. I didn't respond. Let him wonder. The next morning, I woke up with a plan forming in my mind. Not just revenge, that would come later, but proof. Undeniable, irrefutable proof. Asterisk before we continue with Sarah's investigation, I want to ask you for something. We're working toward 1,000 subscribers, and your support makes this channel possible. Hit that subscribe button now and be part of this journey. Asterisk. Jennifer made strong coffee and toast while I outlined my strategy. I'd call Marcus, act normal, say my phone died and I ended up staying at a hotel near the airport because I was too tired to drive. Meanwhile, I'd document everything. You need to be smart about this, Jennifer warned. If you're going for a divorce, you want leverage. I want more than leverage, I said, surprised by the coldness in my own voice. I want him to understand what he's done. I called Marcus at 8 a.m. He answered on the first ring, his voice dripping with fake concern. Sarah. Baby, where are you? I was so worried. My phone died right after I texted you, I lied smoothly. I stayed at a hotel near the airport. I was exhausted from the conference drama. You should have called me from the hotel phone, he said, and I could hear the relief in his voice. Relief that I hadn't come home. I would have come to get you. It's fine. I'll be home this afternoon. Love you. The words tasted like poison. Love you too, he said and hung up. Jennifer watched me with a mixture of concern and admiration. You're scary calm right now. I'm furious, I corrected. But fury without strategy is just noise. I spent the rest of the morning at Jennifer's place, researching divorce lawyers and checking our joint bank accounts on my laptop. Nothing unusual there, yet. But I started taking screenshots of everything. Our assets, our investments, his salary statements. If Marcus wanted to play dirty, I'd be ready. Around noon, I drove to a tech store and bought something I never thought I'd need, a hidden camera disguised as a phone charger. The salesperson didn't ask questions, just rang me up with the bored efficiency of someone who'd seen it all. Asterisk if you're invested in how this story unfolds, please take a second to click subscribe. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, and your support means we can keep bringing you stories like this. Asterisk. I arrived home at 2 p.m. Marcus's car was in the driveway, and when I walked in, he was waiting in the living room, looking like the concerned husband of the year. Sarah. He rushed over and pulled me into a hug that felt like a performance. I was so worried about you. I hugged him back, playing my role. I'm fine. Just tired and frustrated about the conference. We spent the evening in practice domesticity, him asking about my trip, me giving vague answers, both of us pretending everything was fine. I watched him carefully, looking for signs of guilt, but Marcus had always been a good actor. That's what made him a successful sales director, and apparently, a successful cheater. That night, after he fell asleep, I installed the hidden camera on the nightstand on his side of the bed, plugging it in like a regular phone charger. The angle was perfect. It would capture everything. I felt dirty doing it, like I was the one betraying our marriage by spying. But then I remembered that blonde woman in our bed, and the guilt evaporated. Over the next week, I played the perfect wife while secretly documenting Marcus's life. I checked the camera footage every day from my office, fast-forwarding through hours of nothing until Thursday afternoon. I was at work, and Marcus came home early with her. The same blonde from before. They didn't even make it to the bedroom at first. They were all over each other on the couch I'd picked out, in the living room where we'd hosted family dinners. The camera captured everything. Their conversation, her name, Ashley, and the casual way they talked about me. Is your wife still traveling a lot? Ashley asked, running her fingers through Marcus's hair. Yeah, thank God, Marcus laughed. Makes this so much easier. She's completely clueless. Clueless. That word stabbed me every time I replayed the footage. But I kept watching, kept collecting evidence. I discovered they'd been seeing each other for almost 6 months. Ashley worked at a boutique gym downtown where Marcus had suddenly developed an interest in fitness last winter. She was 26, recently divorced, and based on their conversations, had no idea Marcus was still very much married and lying to her too. He'd told her we were separated, that I was cold and career-obsessed, that our marriage had been over for years. We're so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you're enjoying Sarah's story of discovery and revenge, please click that subscribe button now. Let's reach this milestone together. I met with a divorce lawyer named Patricia Chen on the following Monday. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense, and when I showed her the footage, she nodded with grim satisfaction. This is solid evidence of adultery, she said. In Washington, we're a no-fault divorce state, so technically you don't need this for the divorce itself. But it can help with asset division and alimony if he tries to fight you. I want him to fight me, I said. I want him to understand he can't just do this and walk away clean. Patricia studied me for a moment. I have to ask, is this about justice or revenge? Does it matter? Sometimes, she said carefully. Revenge can cloud judgment. It can make you do things that hurt you more than him in the long run. I thought about that for a moment. What if it's both? Justice and revenge. She smiled slightly. Then we'll make sure you get what you deserve while staying on the right side of the law. We spent the next hour strategizing. Patricia would start preparing divorce papers, but I wouldn't serve them yet. First, I wanted to confront Marcus, not with anger and tears, but with cold, calculated truth. I want to catch him in the act again, I told Patricia. I want him to know, that I've known, and that I've been 10 steps ahead this whole time. That's risky, she warned. Emotionally, legally. I know, I interrupted. But I need this. I need him to see my face when his world falls apart, the way I saw mine fall apart watching them together. Patricia sighed but nodded. Just be smart about it. Document everything. And Sarah. She looked at me seriously. Don't do anything that could be used against you in court. No property damage, no violence, nothing that makes you look unstable. I promised I'd behave, but as I left her office, a plan was already forming in my mind. Something that would hurt Marcus where it mattered most. His ego, his reputation, and his comfortable little double life. I spent the next 2 weeks being the perfect wife while secretly preparing for war. I smiled at Marcus over breakfast, kissed him goodbye before work, and asked about his day over dinner. All while the hidden camera kept recording, building my case one betrayal at a time. If you're still with me, watching Sarah execute her plan, please help us grow by hitting that subscribe button. We need your support to reach 1,000 subscribers, and every click makes a difference. Ashley came over 3 more times. Always on afternoons when I was supposedly at work or meetings. The footage showed them laughing, drinking wine from our wedding crystal, using our home like their personal love nest. Each video made me angrier, but I kept my emotions locked down tight. Rage was a fuel, not a fire to lose control in. Jennifer thought I was being too calculating. Maybe you should just confront him now, she said over lunch one Saturday. You have enough evidence. Why torture yourself watching more? Because I need the perfect moment, I explained. The moment where he's so comfortable, so arrogant, that the fall hurts more. You're starting to scare me a little, she admitted. Good. I'm starting to scare myself too. The opportunity came when Marcus announced he had a business conference in Vancouver the second weekend of November. I'd learned to recognize his tells, the way he avoided eye contact when lying, How he became overly affectionate as compensation for guilt. That's perfect, I said, forcing enthusiasm into my voice. I actually have a client presentation in Tacoma that Saturday. We'll both be busy. His relief was palpable. Great minds think alike, right? Wrong. Great minds don't betray the people they promised to love forever. I did have a presentation in Tacoma, I made sure of it, scheduled months ago. But it ended at noon, giving me the perfect window to come home unexpectedly on Saturday afternoon. The week before, I made some purchases that would have raised eyebrows if Marcus had been paying attention. A trip to a hardware store for super glue, the industrial kind, meant for permanent bonding. A visit to a medical supply store for latex gloves. And one stop at a specialty shop that Jennifer insisted on accompanying me to, just to make sure you don't do anything truly insane. Press that subscribe button if you want to see what Sarah's planning. We're building an amazing community here, and we need just a few more people to hit 1,000 subscribers. Be part of this journey. Please tell me you're not planning to actually hurt him, Jennifer said as we drove back from our shopping expedition. I'm not going to touch a hair on his head, I promised. This is psychological warfare, not physical. That somehow doesn't make me feel better. Friday night before the conferences, Marcus and I had dinner at our favorite Italian restaurant. He was in high spirits, probably thinking about his weekend with Ashley. I ordered expensive wine and watched him across the table, memorizing his face. This would be one of the last times I'd sit across from him as his wife. I love you, he said at one point, reaching across to take my hand. I love you too, I replied automatically, but the words were corpses in my mouth. Dead things that once had life. That night, I barely slept. My mind kept racing through the plan, looking for flaws, for anything that could go wrong. By the time my alarm went off at 5 a.m., I'd run through every scenario a dozen times. Marcus left first, around 7. He kissed me goodbye, reminded me to lock up when I left, and drove off toward what he thought was freedom. I watched his car disappear around the corner, then got to work. First, I found his spare key to our bedroom door, the one we never used but kept in the kitchen drawer. Then I went upstairs to our bedroom and located what I was looking for. The bottle of lubricant Marcus kept in his nightstand drawer. He'd always been particular about this brand, ordering it online in bulk. Wearing latex gloves, I carefully opened the bottle and poured about a third of the contents into the sink, watching the clear gel spiral down the drain. Then came the crucial part. I opened the tube of industrial super glue and carefully squeezed it into the lubricant bottle, mixing it with the remaining contents using a wooden skewer. The glue was thick but clear, and mixed with the lubricant, it was nearly impossible to tell anything was wrong. The consistency was slightly different, but Marcus would never notice in the heat of the moment. Super glue takes a few minutes to set, especially when mixed with other substances, but once it does. I sealed the bottle, wiped it clean, and placed it exactly where I'd found it. Then I removed my gloves, disposed of all the evidence in a garbage bag I'd take with me, and did one final check of the bedroom. The hidden camera was still in place, its little light blinking red. Recording. If you're shocked by what Sarah's done, imagine how the story continues. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers by clicking that button right now. Your support keeps stories like this coming. I left for Tacoma at 8:30, my heart pounding with a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. The presentation went smoothly. I barely remember it. My mind was 3 hours north, in a bedroom where revenge was about to unfold. I checked the camera feed on my phone during a bathroom break. Nothing yet. Marcus probably wouldn't bring Ashley over until later in the afternoon when he was certain I was far away. The presentation ended at noon, as scheduled. I accepted congratulations from my client, packed up my materials, and drove home faster than I probably should have. Jennifer called halfway through the drive. Are you sure about this? She asked. Too late now, I said. I'm committed. Just promise me you'll be safe. If things get violent. They won't, I assured her. Marcus is too image conscious for that. His pride will hurt more than anything physical I could do. I arrived home at 2:30 p.m. That red Honda Civic was parked in front of our house again, bold as daylight. Part of me admired Ashley's audacity. The other part wanted to key the car, but I'd promised Patricia I'd behave. I parked a block away and approached quietly. Through the living room window, I could see them on the couch, drinks in hand, laughing about something. Marcus looked younger with her, more carefree. It stung in a way I hadn't expected. I checked my phone. The camera feed showed the bedroom was empty. They hadn't gone upstairs yet. Perfect. I needed them to go upstairs. I needed them to use that contaminated lubricant. So I waited. 30 minutes passed. 45. I sat in my car, watching the house where I'd planned to grow old with someone who'd rather grow bored of me instead. At 3:15, movement. Through the window, I saw them heading toward the stairs, Marcus's hand on Ashley's lower back in that possessive way he used to touch me. My stomach churned, but I pushed the feeling down. No room for weakness now. I waited another 10 minutes, giving them time to get situated. Then I approached the front door with my key ready. My hands were steady, surprisingly steady given what I was about to do. Before we go further, I need to ask for your support. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers, and every single person who clicks that button helps us grow. If you're invested in this story, please subscribe now. The house was quiet except for faint sounds from upstairs. Music playing. That same R&B playlist Marcus apparently thought was romantic. I took off my shoes, moving silently up the stairs just like I had that first day, except this time I wasn't running away. The bedroom door was closed but not locked. I pressed my ear against it and heard exactly what I expected, exactly what I'd heard before. Except this time, there was about to be a very different ending. I waited. This part required timing. I needed them to use the lubricant, needed it to take effect. Super glue bonds almost immediately upon contact with moisture and pressure. Once it sets, it's incredibly difficult to separate without proper solvents and medical attention. 5 minutes. 10. Then I heard it, Ashley's voice, confused. Marcus. Why can't I? I can't either, what the fuck? Panic in his voice now. Real, visceral panic. Pull. I am pulling. Jesus Christ, what's happening? It burns. Marcus, it burns. That was my cue. I pushed open the bedroom door and walked in like I owned the place, because I did. The scene was exactly as I'd imagined. Marcus and Ashley in our bed, literally stuck together, their faces contorted in confusion and pain and dawning horror as they realized they weren't alone. Sarah. Marcus's face went white. We weren't. Weren't what? I asked calmly, leaning against the doorframe. Weren't having sex in my bed? Weren't using my husband? Weren't trying to pull apart because you've discovered that superglue mixed with lubricant creates quite the permanent bond? Ashley's eyes went huge. You did this? I did, I confirmed. And before you start screaming, let me explain something. You can try to pull apart, but that's just going to tear skin and make things worse. Super glue bonds at the molecular level. You're going to need medical intervention. You're insane, Marcus yelled, still trying to separate himself from Ashley. This is assault. I'll call the police. Please do, I said, pulling out my phone. While we're at it, we can show them the footage from the hidden camera over there. I pointed to the nightstand charger. That's been recording your affair for the past 3 weeks. I'm sure my lawyer will find it useful for the divorce proceedings. The blood drained from Marcus's face. Divorce? Did you think I'd stay married to a cheating liar? I laughed, but it was a cold, brittle sound. You said I was clueless, Marcus. You told Ashley I'd never catch you. Well, surprise. I caught you 6 months into your affair, and I've been documenting everything since. Ashley started crying. You said you were separated. You said she knew. He lied to you too, I told her, almost feeling sorry for her. Almost. Welcome to Marcus's world, where everyone's a prop in his ego show. Asterisk if this story has you on the edge of your seat, hit that subscribe button. Help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. We're building something amazing here, and we need your support. Asterisk. Sarah, please, Marcus said, and now the panic was turning to pleading. We need help. Call someone. This hurts. I know it hurts, I said softly. Almost as much as watching the man you love betray you over and over again. Almost as much as realizing your entire marriage was a lie. I'll do anything, he said. Just call for help. I pretended to consider it. Anything. Anything. Sign the divorce papers without contest. Agree to my terms for asset division. Move out within 30 days. Fine. Yes. Just call someone. I pulled out my phone again and dialed 911. Yes, this is Sarah Mitchell at 4217 Magnolia Boulevard. I need emergency services. My husband and his girlfriend have gotten stuck together. It appears to be a medical situation involving adhesive. The operator sounded confused and slightly disbelieving, but dispatched paramedics. While we waited, I sat in the reading chair Marcus had bought me for our second anniversary and watched them struggle with their situation. Ashley was crying steadily now. Marcus's face was a mix of pain, humiliation, and rage. How could you do this? He asked quietly. How could you cheat on me for 6 months and tell your mistress I'd never figure it out? I countered. How could you use our home, our bed, and our marriage as your personal playground? He didn't have an answer for that. The paramedics arrived within 10 minutes, followed closely by 2 police officers. I met them at the door, explained the situation calmly and rationally, and let them upstairs. Their faces when they saw the scene were priceless, a mix of professionalism and barely suppressed shock. One of the officers, a woman in her 40s, took me aside. Ma'am, did you intentionally sabotage that lubricant? I refused to answer without my lawyer present, I said politely. She nodded slowly. Are you in danger from your husband? No. I'm filing for divorce. Good, she said quietly, then went back to managing the scene. The paramedics had to call for additional support. Apparently, separating 2 people glued together in such a delicate area required specialist knowledge and potentially surgery. They covered Marcus and Ashley with sheets and began the awkward process of trying to transport them to the hospital still connected. Asterisk this is where things get even more intense. If you want to see how this situation resolves, please subscribe to our channel. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers, and your support means everything. Asterisk. Neighbors had gathered outside by the time they brought Marcus and Ashley down on a specially prepared stretcher. The looks on those faces, shock, curiosity, barely concealed amusement, were something I'd remember forever. Mrs. Chen from next door caught my eye and gave me a small nod. She'd always liked me better than Marcus anyway. As the ambulance pulled away, siren wailing, I stood on my front porch and watched my marriage leave. Not with tears or regrets, but with a strange sense of calm. One of the officers approached me again. We're going to need you to come to the station for a statement. Of course. I'll call my lawyer. Patricia arrived within the hour, and we went to the police station together. I gave my statement carefully, admitting nothing about the super glue but explaining the affair, the hidden camera, legal in our bedroom, Patricia assured them, and my intention to divorce. The police were surprisingly sympathetic. Apparently, they'd seen enough domestic situations to understand the gray areas of relationships. They took notes, warned me not to engage in any further creative revenge tactics, and let me go home. Home. My house felt different now, emptier but also cleaner somehow, like an infection had been lanced. Jennifer arrived within an hour of me calling her, bringing wine and pizza. We sat on the living room floor. I couldn't bear to sit on the couch after seeing Marcus and Ashley on it, and I told her everything. You actually did it, she said, shaking her head in disbelief. You actually glued them together. I did. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard, and I work in advertising. Am I a terrible person? I asked. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. You're a person who was deeply hurt and responded in kind. Is it terrible? Maybe. Is it understandable? Absolutely. We finished the wine and pizza in silence, and then Jennifer helped me strip the bed and burn the sheets in the backyard fire pit. Symbolic, maybe, but it felt necessary. The next morning, I woke up to a phone full of messages. Most were from Marcus, ranging from angry to pleading to threatening. A few were from numbers I didn't recognize, probably Ashley or her friends. I deleted them all without reading and blocked Marcus's number. Asterisk before we continue with the aftermath of Sarah's revenge. Can I ask you to do something? Hit that subscribe button right now. We're working toward 1,000 subscribers, and we need your help to get there. Asterisk. Patricia called at 9 a.m. Sarah, we have a situation. What kind of situation? Marcus is threatening to press charges for assault and property damage. He's claiming you intentionally caused him physical harm. My stomach dropped. Can he do that? He can try, Patricia said. But here's the thing, proving intent is difficult, and we have evidence of his adultery, which muddles the narrative. Plus, the police report mentions both parties were trespassing in the marital home during an ongoing affair. It's messy for everyone. What should I do? Nothing, she said firmly. Don't contact him, don't respond to his messages, don't engage. Let me handle this. I've already reached out to his lawyer. Yes, he's lawyered up, and proposed a settlement. Sign the divorce papers without contest, agree to a fair asset split, and you won't press civil charges for emotional distress. Will he go for it? He doesn't have much choice. The alternative is a very public court case where every detail of his affair comes out, including footage of him disparaging you to his mistress. His employer might be interested in that, given he's in a customer-facing role. I smiled despite myself. You're good at this. I've been doing divorce law for 23 years, Patricia said dryly. I've seen worse. Much worse. The hospital situation, I learned from a gleeful Jennifer who'd stalked the local news, had required a 3-hour surgical procedure to separate Marcus and Ashley. Both suffered minor tissue damage and severe embarrassment. The story had somehow leaked to a local blog, and while names weren't officially used, enough details were out there that people could connect dots. Marcus's employer called him in for a meeting on Monday. By Wednesday, he'd been placed on indefinite administrative leave, pending an investigation into conduct unbecoming of a director. Translation: they were looking for a way to fire him without getting sued. Ashley, meanwhile, had apparently ended things with Marcus in the ambulance, which I learned from the hidden camera footage I'd recovered. That conversation, at least, gave me some satisfaction. You said you were separated. Ashley had screamed at him through tears and pain. You said she was cold and distant, and you were basically roommates. I was going to leave her, Marcus had tried. I just needed time. You're a liar. And now I have to explain to my friends, my family, my employer why I needed surgery to remove myself from a married man. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Asterisk, we're getting close to the end of Sarah's story, but we need your help. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already. 1,000 subscribers is our goal, and you can help us reach it. Asterisk. The divorce moved forward with surprising speed. Marcus, facing potential criminal charges and public humiliation, signed everything Patricia put in front of him. I got the house, most of our savings, and a very generous settlement that would allow me to live comfortably while figuring out my next chapter. The hardest part wasn't the legal proceedings or the paperwork. It was facing our mutual friends, our families, and explaining what happened without explaining exactly what I'd done. Most people sided with me once they learned about the affair. Marcus's parents were horrified and apologetic. My own parents were supportive but concerned. Sweetheart, my mother said during a difficult phone call. I'm glad you're leaving him, but some of the rumors going around. Please tell me you didn't actually. Mom, I can't discuss the details. My lawyer says. I'm your mother, not a court reporter. Did you put glue in that bottle? I was quiet for a long moment. Would it change how you feel about me if I said yes? No, she said firmly. I'd be concerned about your methods, but I'd understand the rage. That man broke his promises to you. He humiliated you. And honestly, she laughed suddenly. It's the most creative revenge I've ever heard of. Mom. What? Your father thinks it's brilliant. He said it's like something from a movie. Despite everything, I laughed. Really laughed. For the first time in weeks. Life started to normalize, or at least find a new normal. I threw myself into work, got promoted to senior partner, and started therapy to deal with the emotional wreckage of betrayal. The therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Rodriguez, helped me process the rage and hurt without judging my actions. Do you regret what you did? She asked during one session. Sometimes, I admitted. Not the divorce or standing up for myself, but the method. It was cruel. It was, Dr. Rodriguez agreed. But you know what else is cruel? Betrayal. Gaslighting. Being lied to for 6 months by someone who promised to honor and cherish you. Does that excuse what you did? No. Does it contextualize it? Yes. So where do I go from here? Forward, she said simply. You process the pain, you learn from it, and you build a life that's authentic to who you are now, not who you were with Marcus. Asterisk, as we near the end of Sarah's journey, I want to remind you that we're building a community here. Hit that subscribe button and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Your support makes content like this possible. Asterisk. 3 months after that terrible Saturday, the divorce was finalized. I stood in the courthouse with Patricia and Jennifer, holding the signed papers that officially ended my marriage. How do you feel? Jennifer asked as we walked out into the gray Seattle afternoon. Free, I said, and I meant it. Angry still. Hurt. But free. We went to a bar and toasted to new beginnings. As I sipped my drink, I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the revenge, the fallout. Would I do it again? Probably not. The legal stress alone wasn't worth it. But would I take it back? That was a harder question. Marcus had taught me something valuable, that I was stronger than I thought, meaner when necessary, and capable of fighting back when pushed too far. Not all of those were lessons I wanted to learn, but they were lessons I needed. My phone buzzed. An email from an unknown address. I almost deleted it, but curiosity won. It was from Ashley. Asterisk, I don't expect forgiveness, and I'm not asking for it. But I wanted you to know that Marcus lied to both of us. He used both of us. I'm sorry for my role in hurting you. What you did was awful and painful, but I understand the rage behind it. I hope you find happiness and peace. I'm trying to find mine too. Asterisk. I stared at the email for a long time, then deleted it without responding. Some bridges were meant to stay burned. 6 months after the divorce, I started dating again. Cautiously, carefully, with walls up higher than ever. Jennifer set me up with a colleague of hers, a graphic designer named David who was soft-spoken and kind and nothing like Marcus. Asterisk, we're on the final stretch of Sarah's story, and I need your help. If you've been following along and want to see how everything ends, please subscribe to our channel. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers, and every click brings us closer to that goal. Asterisk. Our first date was at a quiet coffee shop in Fremont, far from anywhere Marcus and I used to go. David arrived early, which I appreciated, and stood when I approached the table, an old-fashioned gesture that felt oddly comforting. Jennifer's told me a bit about you, he said as we sat down. I hope that's okay. Depends what she told you, I said carefully. He smiled. That you're brilliant at your job, fiercely loyal to your friends, and recently went through a difficult divorce. That's the diplomatic version. I figured. He stirred sugar into his coffee. For what it's worth, I went through a messy breakup 2 years ago. Not a divorce, but close enough. I understand needing to take things slow. And we did. David didn't push for more information than I was willing to give. He didn't ask about Marcus or what happened or why my marriage ended. He just existed beside me, patient and steady, while I figured out how to trust again. 3 dates in, over dinner at a Thai restaurant, he finally asked, "Can I ask you something personal?" My guard went up immediately. Depends on the question. Did your ex cheat on you? I took a sip of water, buying time. Why do you ask? Because you flinch every time I check my phone. You watch the door like you're expecting someone to walk in and ruin everything. And sometimes you look at me like you're trying to find the lie. His honesty was disarming. He did. For 6 months. With a woman he told I was cold and distant, and that our marriage was basically over. "I'm sorry," David said quietly. "That's a special kind of betrayal." It was. I set down my water glass. And I did something I'm not proud of in response. Something that hurt him badly. So I'm not just the victim in this story. I'm also the person who retaliated in a way that probably makes me sound unstable. Are you unstable? My therapist says no. But I scared myself with what I was capable of when I was that angry. David was quiet for a moment, then reached across the table and took my hand. "Here's what I think. I think you're someone who was deeply hurt and responded from a place of pain. I think you're working on healing. And I think you deserve someone who won't make you feel like you need to retaliate ever again." I felt tears prick my eyes. Not sad tears, but the kind that come from being seen, really seen, for the first time in a long time. "I'd like to keep seeing you," I said. "But I need you to know I'm still a mess in a lot of ways." "We're all messes," he replied. "The question is whether we're willing to be messy together." Asterisk: if this story of healing and second chances is touching you, please take a moment to subscribe. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers and be part of our growing community. Asterisk. By month 8 post-divorce, I'd settled into a new routine. Therapy twice a month. Yoga 3 times a week, not for any spiritual reason, but because holding warrior pose for extended periods made it hard to think about Marcus. Dinner with Jennifer every Friday. Dates with David when our schedules aligned. The house still felt too big sometimes, too full of memories, but I'd started redecorating. New paint in the bedroom, a soft gray instead of the blue Marcus had chosen. New furniture in the living room. The couch where I'd seen him with Ashley, donated to Goodwill with great satisfaction. I kept the hidden camera though, not to use again, but as a reminder. A physical object that represented the moment I took back control of my narrative. Marcus, I heard through mutual friends, had moved to Portland. New job, lower salary, trying to rebuild his reputation after everything imploded. He'd apparently told people I was vindictive and crazy, that I'd ruined his life over a mistake. A mistake. 6 months of deliberate betrayal, reduced to a mistake. But I didn't engage. Didn't defend myself publicly or explain what really happened. The people who mattered knew the truth. Everyone else could think what they wanted. One evening, 9 months after that terrible Saturday, I was having dinner at David's apartment when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Sarah Mitchell. A woman's voice, professional and clipped. Speaking. "This is Detective Morrison with Seattle PD. I'm calling about the case involving Marcus Mitchell from last year." My stomach dropped. "Has something happened?" "No, ma'am. Actually, I'm calling to inform you that Mr. Mitchell has withdrawn his complaint. There will be no charges filed against you related to the incident." I sat down heavily on David's couch. "Why?" "I can't speak to his motivations. But between you and me?" Her voice softened slightly. His lawyer probably explained that pursuing charges would require him to admit to adultery in open court, and the evidence you have would make him look unsympathetic. Plus, the initial police report doesn't actually prove you tampered with anything. It's all circumstantial. So it's over. It's over. You're clear, Ms. Mitchell. After I hung up, David handed me a glass of wine. Good news. The best news, I said, and started laughing. Not from humor, but from sheer relief. The fear I'd been carrying for months, that I'd be arrested, charged, publicly shamed, just evaporated. Tell me, David said, settling beside me on the couch. So I did. I told him everything. The hidden camera, the superglue, the paramedics, the police, the divorce proceedings. Every detail I'd been holding back out of fear or shame or worry that he'd think I was as unstable as Marcus claimed. When I finished, David was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "That's the most creative revenge I've ever heard." You don't think I'm crazy? I think you're someone who got pushed past their breaking point and responded in kind. Would I have done the same thing? He paused thoughtfully. Probably not. But I've never been betrayed like that, so I don't know what I'd be capable of if I was. We're approaching the conclusion of Sarah's story, but first, please subscribe. We're working toward 1,000 subscribers, and your support means everything to this channel. Click that button and join our community. A year after the divorce, I sold the house. Too many memories, good and bad, and I needed a fresh start. I bought a smaller condo in Capitol Hill, close to Jennifer, with huge windows and a view of the Space Needle. David helped me move in, along with Jennifer and a few other friends. As we unpacked boxes and assembled furniture, I realized I was surrounded by people who knew the worst parts of my story and still chose to be in my life. To new beginnings, Jennifer toasted that night, raising a beer in my new living room. To new beginnings, I echoed, and I meant it. The thing about betrayal is that it changes you. I wasn't the same Sarah who'd married Marcus 8 years ago. That Sarah had been trusting, maybe too trusting. She'd believed in forever and meant it when she said her vows. This Sarah was harder, more cautious, with scar tissue where innocence used to be. But this Sarah also knew her own strength. She knew she could survive the worst kind of personal devastation and come out the other side. Was I proud of what I'd done? No. Did I regret it? Sometimes. But would I let myself be betrayed like that again without fighting back? Absolutely not. 14 months after the divorce, I was at a work conference in downtown Seattle when I saw him. Marcus, standing near the hotel bar, talking to a woman I didn't recognize. He looked older, tired, like the year had worn him down in ways I hadn't expected. Before we continue with this unexpected meeting, please take a second to subscribe to our channel. We need your support to hit 1,000 subscribers, and every click helps us grow. My first instinct was to leave, to avoid the confrontation entirely. But something kept me rooted to the spot. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the need to prove to myself that I could face him without falling apart. He saw me at the same moment I made the decision to stay. Our eyes met across the crowded lobby, and for a second, time seemed to freeze. Then he excused himself from the woman and walked over. My heart pounded, but I kept my expression neutral, detached. "Sarah," he said. Just my name, weighted with 1,000 unspoken things. "Marcus." We stood there awkwardly, two people who'd once shared everything, now strangers to each other. "You look good," he finally said. "Happy." "I am happy," I replied and realized it was true. "You look different." "Portland's been rough," he admitted. "New job, new city, new life. Turns out starting over isn't as easy as I thought it would be." "No," I agreed. "It's not." Another silence. Then Marcus said quietly, "I'm sorry. For everything. For cheating, for lying, for making you feel like you weren't enough when you were always more than enough." I'd imagined this moment 100 times. His apology, my response, the satisfaction of finally hearing him admit what he'd done. But standing here, actually living it, I felt nothing but a dull ache where rage used to be. "I appreciate that," I said carefully. "But an apology doesn't undo the damage." "I know." He looked down at his shoes. "What you did to me. I probably deserved it. Maybe not exactly that, but something." "I shouldn't have done it," I said, surprising myself with the admission. "It was cruel and dangerous, and I could have seriously hurt both of you. I was operating from a place of pain, not logic." "You were operating from a place of justified rage," Marcus countered. "I broke something between us that couldn't be fixed. You just made sure I understood that in the most visceral way possible." He smiled slightly, sadly. "For what it's worth, I haven't cheated on anyone since. Probably won't ever again. That hospital room, that humiliation, that pain, it taught me a lesson I'll never forget." "Good," I said. "Nobody deserves what you did to me. Not me, not Ashley, not anyone." "I know." He paused. "Are you seeing anyone?" "I am. A good man who treats me the way I should have been treated all along." Something flickered across Marcus's face. Regret, maybe, or loss. "I'm glad. Really. You deserve that." Asterisk if you're invested in how this encounter ends, please subscribe to our channel. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers and be part of this journey. Asterisk. We stood there for another moment, two people who'd shared a life now living completely separate existences. There was nothing left to say, no closure that would make the past year make sense. "Take care of yourself, Marcus," I finally said. "You too, Sarah." I walked away without looking back, and with each step, I felt lighter. Seeing him again had answered questions I didn't know I still had. He was just a man now, not a monster or a villain. Just someone who'd made terrible choices and was living with the consequences. And I was someone who'd made a terrible choice too, but had used it as a catalyst for change rather than an excuse to stay bitter. David was waiting for me upstairs in the conference room. When I walked in, he took one look at my face and asked, "Are you okay?" "I saw Marcus," I said. And, I'm okay. Actually okay, not pretending okay." He pulled me into a hug, and I let myself lean into him, grateful for his steadiness, his patience, his willingness to love someone still healing from wounds that hadn't fully scarred over. That night, back at my condo, I took the hidden camera out of the drawer where I'd kept it and threw it away. Not because I forgave Marcus or forgot what he'd done, but because I didn't need the physical reminder anymore. The memories were enough. The lessons were learned. And holding on to anger was just holding me back from the life I was building. 2 years after the divorce, I married David in a small ceremony at a vineyard in Woodinville, surrounded by the people who'd supported me through my darkest time. Jennifer was my maid of honor. My parents cried. David's vows made me cry. Asterisk, we're almost at the end of Sarah's story, and I want to thank you for staying with us this far. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers, and your support makes all the difference. Asterisk. Standing there in my simple white dress, holding David's hands, I thought about all the ways my life had changed. 2 years ago, I'd been a woman betrayed, consumed by rage and hurt and the need for revenge. Today, I was a woman who'd survived, healed, and found love again. The revenge, that moment with the super glue, would always be part of my story. I couldn't erase it, and I wasn't sure I wanted to. It represented the moment I stopped being a victim and started fighting back, however imperfectly. But it wasn't the whole story. Just a chapter. A painful, messy, complicated chapter in a book that was still being written. After the ceremony, during the reception, Jennifer pulled me aside. "You know, 2 years ago, I thought you might not recover from what Marcus did to you. Honestly, I wasn't sure either. But you did. You more than recovered, you transformed. You became someone stronger, someone who knows her worth and won't settle for less." "I had good people helping me," I said, looking around at our friends and family. I couldn't have done it alone. Maybe not. But you did the hard work. You chose healing over bitterness. That's all you. As the evening wore on and David and I danced to our wedding song, I caught sight of my reflection in one of the venue's mirrors. I looked happy. Genuinely, authentically happy in a way I hadn't been in years. The woman who'd mixed super glue with lubricant felt like a different person now. Someone I'd been but wasn't anymore. Someone who'd been pushed past a breaking point and responded in kind, then used that rock bottom as a foundation to build something better. We've reached the end of Sarah's journey from betrayal to healing, from revenge to redemption. If this story resonated with you, please click that subscribe button right now. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers and support more stories like this one. People sometimes ask me if I regret what I did. My answer is complicated. I regret the risk, both legal and physical. I regret the cruelty, even if it was directed at someone who'd been cruel to me first. I regret that I let my rage make decisions that my rational mind knew were dangerous. But I don't regret standing up for myself. I don't regret refusing to be the passive victim of someone else's betrayal. And I don't regret the lessons I learned about my own strength, my capacity for survival, and my ability to rebuild after everything falls apart. Marcus taught me what I didn't want in a relationship. David taught me what I did want. And somewhere in between, I taught myself that I was enough, not for someone else's validation, but for my own peace of mind. The superglue incident became something of an urban legend in Seattle. People still tell the story at parties, always third-hand, never quite getting the details right. Sometimes I hear versions where I'm a hero. Sometimes I'm a villain. Mostly, I'm just a cautionary tale about revenge and its consequences. I never correct them. Let them think what they want. The people who matter know the truth, and that's enough. As David and I cut our wedding cake and our friends cheered, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. Through betrayal, rage, revenge, consequence, healing, and finally to this moment of genuine happiness. It hadn't been a straight path. There had been detours and wrong turns and moments where I'd scared even myself with what I was capable of. But somehow, impossibly, I'd made it through to the other side. Thank you for following Sarah's complete story from beginning to end. If you enjoyed this journey, please subscribe to our channel and help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Your support means we can continue sharing stories that matter, stories that resonate, stories that remind us we're not alone in our struggles and our victories. 5 years after the divorce, I received a letter in the mail. The return address was Portland, Oregon, and I knew immediately who it was from. I almost threw it away unopened, but curiosity won again. Inside was a single page, Marcus's handwriting still familiar after all this time. Sarah. I'm writing this because my therapist suggested it might help both of us find closure. I'm not asking for forgiveness or a response. I just want you to know that I understand now what I put you through. I'm engaged. Her name is Rachel, and she's nothing like you, which is probably for the best. She knows everything about what happened with us. The affair, the consequences, all of it. She knows the worst parts of who I was and chose to stay anyway. I'm learning to be the person she deserves, which means being honest even when it's hard, staying faithful even when it would be easy not to, and treating the relationship like the gift it is instead of something I'm entitled to. I hope you found happiness too. I hope you built a life that makes you proud. And I hope you know that while what you did was extreme, it came from a place of real pain that I caused. I'm sorry I made you into someone you didn't recognize. I'm sorry I broke something beautiful. And I'm sorry it took something so dramatic for me to understand the weight of my actions. Take care. Marcus. I read the letter 3 times, then filed it away in a drawer. Not as a trophy or a reminder, but as evidence of growth, his and mine. That evening, I showed it to David. He read it silently, then looked up at me. How do you feel? Like a chapter really is closed, I said. For both of us. He's rebuilding his life. I've rebuilt mine. And maybe, finally, we can both stop looking backward. David pulled me close. I'm proud of you. For how far you've come, for the work you've done, for the person you've become. I'm proud of me too, I said, and meant it. Asterisk, we've reached the true end of Sarah's story, not with revenge, but with closure. Not with bitterness, but with understanding. If this journey moved you, please subscribe to our channel. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers and continue bringing you stories about the messy, complicated, beautiful process of being human. Asterisk. The thing about betrayal is that it leaves scars. But scars aren't necessarily bad. They're proof that you survived something that tried to break you. They're evidence of healing, of the body and mind's incredible ability to repair damage. My scars from Marcus's betrayal are still there. I still flinch sometimes when David's phone buzzes late at night. I still have moments of irrational jealousy that I have to talk myself down from. I still carry the knowledge of what I'm capable of when pushed too far. But I also carry the knowledge that I survived. That I rebuilt. That I found love again with someone who treats me like I'm precious rather than convenient. And on the days when I remember that terrible Saturday, the super glue, the paramedics, the look on Marcus's face when he realized what I'd done, I don't feel pride or shame anymore. I just feel grateful that it's over, that everyone involved learned something, and that life is long enough for redemption if you're willing to do the work. Marcus was right about one thing in his letter. What I did was extreme. It was dangerous and cruel, and I'm lucky no one was seriously hurt. But it came from a place of real pain, real betrayal, real violation of trust. I'm not that person anymore. But I remember her. I remember what she was capable of. And I keep her memory close as a reminder, not of who I want to be, but of who I never want to become again. Because revenge might be satisfying in the moment, but healing is the real victory. And living well isn't just the best revenge. It's the best life. Asterisk, thank you for being part of Sarah's complete journey. If you found meaning in this story, please hit that subscribe button one last time. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers and support more storytelling that explores the full spectrum of human experience. The good, the bad, and everything in between. Asterisk. The end. Today, David and I are expecting our first child. A daughter. We've already decided we'll tell her age-appropriate versions of how we met, how I learned about strength through adversity, how sometimes the worst moments of your life become the catalyst for the best ones. But the super glue story. That one can wait until she's much, much older. And maybe if she ever finds herself betrayed by someone she trusted, I'll tell her the whole truth. Not to encourage revenge, but to show her that you can survive even the worst betrayals, make terrible mistakes in response, learn from them, and still build a beautiful life on the other side. Because that's the real story. Not the revenge, but everything that came after. The healing. The growth. The second chances. The life rebuilt from ashes, stronger and truer than before. And the understanding that while hurt people, healed people can break that cycle and choose something better. That's the story I want to pass down. That's the story worth telling. Asterisk, thank you for listening to Sarah's complete story. Your support in subscribing helps us reach our goal and continue sharing these journeys. Click subscribe, and let's build this community together. Asterisk.